Hi, everybody. Welcome to Fridays with Sue and Steph. Our topic today is the question that we actually ask on our podcast. It's how we wrap up our podcast. And it's what's the biggest myth about raising teenagers? So we thought we'd turn the cameras inward, if you will. So I actually have a couple. So I don't have the biggest myth. I probably wrote down the two biggest myths. So I'll give my first one. Is that the teenage years are basically going to suck. Like there's this whole thing where you're heading toward it and people are like, wait, how old is he or how old is she? And you're like, oh, just turned 13. And people are like, oh, And so I actually think there are moments that suck. And then there are these amazing moments. So I actually think it's this mixed bag. And I actually think there's more amazing moments than sucky moments. And maybe that's more in retrospect, but that would be my number one.
So I think it entirely depended on the kid in my house. Some of them were horrible years and some of them were less horrible years. But in retrospect, what I would say is that doing the horrible years at the right time was way better than putting that off. It's kind of like
Right.
being a terrible 2 is so much easier than being a terrible 4 because everybody expects, they see a 2-year-old and they kind of go like, yeah, terrible 2s. But you see a 4-year-old and you kind of think there's a problem, but they may just not have gone through the developmental stages yet. So I would say that my biggest myth is that the buying into the kids pushing away as a statement that was finite. Like they're not as interested in a relationship with me. It's true, but I have to keep being interested in a relationship with them because even if they're walking out of the room as I say it, like I've had some of my kids say to me, like way too long later, that something I said had an impact. And no one in any proximity would have believed that kid even heard the words because they were literally doing one of these or walking out of the room, rolling their eyes, but they hear it. And so what I can say in my house in retrospect is that I needed to be in the relationship with them at all times, even if they looked like they didn't want to be in the relationship with me.
That's such a good one. That's a good one. That is a really good one. Okay, here was my next one. It made me think about third one. Something you said. But my next one was that you get one chance. And that could not be farther from the truth. Like, I guess leading up to it, like I thought it was like this, these are the years and you're going to get this chance to do it right. And it's like, I got a chance at 9 and then 9:30 again, and then at 10:30, and then a few more at 11. So like this idea, like you're going to get like one at bat, like there's so many at bats. They just keep coming at you. And I think overall that can be exhausting. Here's what I'll say. It is exhausting and it's hopeful because you get to try again.
I mean, over and over again. And like anything else in life, relationships ebb and flow. And so, I would totally agree with that. The other one for me is that so much is out in the world about friendships being like so important to your well-being. I just heard on a podcast that 17 cigarettes impact your lungs and your body the same way no friends. And like that loneliness it can cause the same bad detrimental problems in our bodies and our well-being that smoking can.
Oh, I see.
And so while that research may really support that, I want to say that we don't have a whole lot of control over that. Even we don't as the parents, and our kids don't always have that control. So high school may not be the high point of their social life. And what you can hope for is that the next thing they do maybe has a better outcome, or that summer camps are the place where they find their people. But I always felt like it's so much pressure to tell parents that they just need one really close friend when friendships come and go. So like, if you think you've got it nailed because your kid has a best friend and then that best friendship doesn't work out anymore, does that mean like you should, alert everybody and say, oh my God, something's really, really wrong? Or is that the way life goes? And you have to figure out, okay, where are you going to find your next comfort place socially? So I always balk at this, like the six, like, when people are talking about how their kids aren't in the cool group or the in group, or they got booted out of it. and then the antidote to that is to have one good friend. That might be hard also. So it's a work in progress. Our kids are learning how to be in relationships. And so I don't know. I'm not a therapist, but I always had this feeling when that was given as the story that, like, I've kind of had kids sometimes that didn't feel like they had a group or a friend.
Yeah.
And then it was our job to kind of brainstorm together where they could fill that hole.
Yeah.
But it's not like this, like you go, oh, I need some new friends. Okay. Done.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. That's a good one. That's a good one. That's deep. I'm thinking about that now. I'm going to try and move through. I got to go back to that at some point. Something you said made me think you were talking about, like that your job was to be in the relationship with them, right? This meant, like, even though they're not talking or whatever, which made me think about, and we've talked to many experts about this, like the power of touch. And so, like, I had
shout out to Mindy. We have an article about hugging. And if Jessica's on, maybe she'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
And Mindy hates that article. And so it's the biggest joke for like 10 years now. Every time someone talks about the power of touch, we just go, yay, Mindy.
Oh, that is really funny. Okay, so here's what I'll say. Like, I have one in particular that does not love to be hugged, like, not like that. But the article and conversations about this, even though they're looking like they don't want that, what you said about being in it made me think about this power of, like, even when I'll walk by that one, like putting a hand on the back, putting it like little. And I think about it all the time. Like, I think, how can I do that gently where it almost looks like an accident?
And it doesn't have, like, this, when we say like how many times you should, it's really touch. It's not hug, right?
Yes.
But the article kind of espouses how many times a day you should be doing that. And those formulas are hard. Yeah. But the idea is, like, the kid, and obviously if you have a kid with some kind of tactile issue,
sensory,
then that's not going to be the same story. But if it's just that they kind of go like that, like that, just a little thing. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one. And I guess Jessica's not on because I don't see anything in the chat. Okay, what's my last myth? I guess my last myth about raising teenagers is that the idea that kids aren't driven in the same, and I don't mean this about all kids because there's no all kids, but the lazy boy or the unmotivated girl, or my husband his parents were always told that he had a lot of potential, and it was at a school. It was like these school conferences where the teachers would say, he's got so much potential, like, meaning he's not actually rising to it. And life turned out fine for him. He overimpressed. So what I would say is no one goes into high school or middle school hoping to fail or to be lazy, and that they're people, like they're looking forward to things and they want things, and other things get in the way. Like, maybe you have some mental health issues or something's not working in the environment they're in, but I don't think they're inherently lazy or inherently anything. And so kind of writing someone off as less motivated than the other one, it's like, well, what motivates them? Maybe it's not the classroom.
Yeah. I just had one more thought as you were talking. So yesterday, Sue and I had this great opportunity to speak to a group of parents, and like they were doing
at Everyday Health.
At Everyday Health, they were doing.
And I think, what is it? It's their ERG. Is that what it is?
It's their ERG. That's right. It's their parents.
Yeah, and it was really, really fun. We could take that show on the road if anybody wants us to come to their company.
Okay, that was so fun. And I'm gonna give you the credit on this one. It was your idea to come up with this idea. We were talking about, like, how should we formulate this? Like, what should it look like? What should the cadence of it? And Sue was like, wait, why don't we just go through, like, one of our days? Like, what did it look like in the morning and different things that happened during the day and all the way through the end. And I think it reinforced for both of us, while we had a couple similarities in terms of the way we handled a couple things, it showed that there are so many different ways to do this. And I think, for as similar as I think we are in a lot of ways, that we handled so many things in different ways, and we each had our own failures and we each had our own successes. And I love that. Like, I love that, like, to me, if I were that parent sitting there were many with like 10 and 8-year-olds, I think, and 10 and 12-year-olds, and I'm sitting there looking at these teen years ahead of me, I hope it gave parents that latitude to know there's not just one way. Like
And-
there's lots of ways. That's such a, like, to me, that's so encouraging. I hope
So
it felt that way.
And you get to be true to yourself, but
Mhm.
taking in what other people are doing should be, I found it really valuable. It didn't mean I wanted to do it the way they did it, but it meant sometimes it was like, I want to do the exact opposite of what they're doing. But I think sharing how we parent is so important, because not because it's going to give me the rule book, because there is none, but I'm going to kind of see like that really resonated with me. Or, I mean, that just wasn't something I thought of before, and now I want to try it. So there are so many ways. No two people are parenting the same way. In my house, there aren't even two parents parenting the same way.
Same. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, it was very fun. We would definitely take that show on the road for sure.
All right. We good to go? Got anything else?
That's it.
All right, everybody. Thanks for being here with us, and we'll see you next Friday.